So I'm just about to record my sowing and growing guides for December and January, and it prompted me to think about, whether it's a good idea to sow anything in December and January. And I think in most situations it's not a good idea. Things are just going to grow weak and floppy, and they'll just generally be unhealthy by comparison with anything that you sowed in February. And there's almost nothing that you can sow in December and January that you can't sow quite happily in February and still get a great harvest. So why does anybody, including me, sow things in December and January? Well, there's a few reasons. So the first one is just a love of sowing and growing. Sometimes I just want to have things growing around me and watch the progress of seedlings and just have something to plant out and just enjoy the sort of process of growing and experimentation and all of that. So the other reason is that there's certain situations where starting things that little bit earlier allows you to grow something that's a little bit showier. And that might be the case, for example, with leeks and onions. If you want really big leeks or you want really big onions to show, which I don't do, then maybe there's a scenario where that makes sense. And I don't really know, because I don't get involved in that sort of side of gardening at all. Really though, what drives me is continuity of a rich harvest all year round. And so there's certain things that you can sow in December and January that will just result in you having a continuous harvest of that thing all the way through spring. And I'll be talking about those in the December and January guides. But basically that's my driver primarily. I do love to grow things just for the sake of it, and I do love to experiment, but mostly I just like to have a rich diet, and I'm prepared to invest, not an inconsiderable sum on grow lights in order to make that happen. And partly that's because I get seasonal effectiveness disorder and I really like to be surrounded by really bright lights. And that's just partly because I love to, as I say, be involved in the process of sowing and growing things all year round. But I say mostly it's for quality of diet. It's my primary driver. And some people will say obviously that they can't afford grow lights and they can't afford to run grow lights. I'm fairly disciplined in that I don't really grow anything that I can't justify growing. There'll be a few things, maybe early peppers and things like that really is a month's extra worth of pepper harvest worth the extra sort of time and effort and heat and electricity and whatever that's involved in growing them? And the answer to that is probably not. But 95% of the time, I really won't do anything unless I've already saved the money that I'm going to spend on doing it. And that's pretty much been the case for this whole allotment. When I started off, I was going to go on holiday, and then I got a notice that says, yeah, you've got this allotment plot. And so I cancelled the holiday. I took the money that I was going to spend on the holiday and I invested it in the plot. I took a few, harvested for three months or so. And then I took the savings off the food bill from those 3 months and used that to buy cold frames. And I took the savings from those over a year and used that to buy this polytunnel. Then I took the savings from this polytunnel and the allotment plot to buy the greenhouse. So everything for me is self-funded. I don't have any money at all to spend on gardening that I haven't already saved off the food bill. So anyway, that is my sort of just caution really. Don't do any of the things that I'm doing unless you just want to do it for the fun of it. You want to do it because you really want to grow stuff, and you've got the heat and light and the sort of polytunnels and whatever that's required in order to make a success of it, or that you've got some special circumstance, like you just want to grow the very best of something or the very biggest of something for show or whatever, and you've figured out that December and January gives you that little bit of advantage. But unless you've got those reasons, if you're doing it because you think you're going to get better leeks, or you're going to get better onions, or you're going to get better beetroot or whatever, just don't do it. Wait until February, it'll be much more successful.